It was a brisk autumn morning at JFK International Airport, and the terminals buzzed with energy. Travelers hurried past each other, dragging suitcases and balancing coffees in one hand, while clutching boarding passes in the other. The familiar voices of gate agents echoed over the intercom, announcing boarding calls and flight updates. Among the sea of passengers was Jordan Ellis, a well-dressed black man in his late 40s, exuding quiet confidence. He wasn't a man who craved attention, but it was hard not to notice him. Standing tall in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit, carrying a leather briefcase in one hand and a sleek tablet in the other, Jordan looked every bit the seasoned professional he was. This wasn't just any ordinary trip for him. It was a business flight to Los Angeles for one of the most important meetings of his life. Jordan was the CEO of Ellis Solutions, a cybersecurity firm that had quickly risen to prominence over the past few years. After years of sleepless nights, relentless hard work, and overcoming countless obstacles, his company was on the verge of securing a multi-million-dollar deal with a group of top-tier investors. But little did Jordan know that this flight wouldn't just be memorable for business. It would become a defining moment in his life for an entirely different reason. As Jordan waited for his boarding group to be called, he took a deep breath, mentally rehearsing his presentation. He had spent weeks perfecting every detail, knowing that this deal could be the key to expanding his business globally. His focus was momentarily interrupted when he noticed a family standing a few feet away. The family consisted of a man and a woman, both in their mid-50s, and their 2 teenage children. They were dressed impeccably in designer clothing, from the father's expensive-looking tailored blazer to the mother's pristine white cashmere coat. Their children, a boy and a girl, each wore high-end sneakers and carried the latest smartphones in their hands. Jordan didn't pay them much mind at first. He was used to seeing wealthy families in first class. After all, he had flown enough times to know that people often assumed a certain air of superiority when flying in the front of the plane. However, something about this family's demeanor caught his attention. The father, a man with graying hair and sharp features, kept glancing around the terminal, his expression one of mild irritation. It was as if he found the entire experience beneath him. His wife, equally well-groomed, whispered something to him, and he responded with a curt nod. Their children, meanwhile, seemed entirely absorbed in their devices, oblivious to their surroundings. When the gate agent finally announced the boarding call for first-class passengers, Jordan calmly gathered his belongings and joined the line. He wasn't in a hurry. He knew that first class offered plenty of space, and there was no need to rush. As he approached the gate, he noticed the wealthy family doing the same, though they seemed less patient than he was. "Let's get this over with," the father muttered under his breath as they handed over their boarding passes. Once on the plane, Jordan made his way to seat 1A, a window seat in the front row of the first-class cabin. He placed his briefcase in the overhead compartment and settled into his seat, pulling out his tablet to review his presentation one last time. A few minutes later, the wealthy family entered the cabin, their presence hard to ignore. As they approached their seats, which happened to be directly across the aisle from Jordan, the father's expression darkened. He glanced at Jordan, his eyes narrowing slightly, before turning to his wife. "Are you kidding me?" the man whispered harshly to his wife. "We're sitting next to him?" His wife looked toward Jordan briefly before replying in a low voice. "It's just a few hours. Let's not make a scene." Their hushed conversation didn't escape Jordan's notice, but he chose to ignore it. He was no stranger to prejudice, and he had long since learned to rise above it. However, the tension in the air was palpable, and it didn't take long for things to escalate. As the family settled into their seats, the father couldn't seem to let it go. He called over a flight attendant, a young woman named Claire, who approached with a professional smile. "Is there something I can assist you with, sir?" Claire asked. "Yes," the man said curtly, lowering his voice but keeping a sharp tone. "We were hoping to sit somewhere else. We'd prefer not to be seated here." Claire blinked, momentarily taken aback by the request. "I'm sorry, sir, but first class is fully booked. All passengers have been assigned their seats." The man frowned, clearly dissatisfied. "Are you sure? There must be something you can do. We paid a lot of money for these seats, and I'd expect a bit more accommodation." "I understand, sir, but there's nothing available at the moment. If anything changes, I'll be sure to let you know," Claire replied politely, before walking away. Jordan kept his focus on his tablet, pretending not to hear the exchange, though he couldn't help but feel a pang of frustration. He had worked hard to be where he was, yet there were still people who saw only his skin color, not his accomplishments. As the plane took off, the tension remained thick. The wealthy father continued to glance at Jordan periodically, his displeasure evident. His wife occasionally whispered something to him, likely urging him to drop the matter, but the atmosphere was already strained. Meanwhile, Jordan focused on his work, determined not to let the situation distract him. He knew that how he reacted in moments like these mattered, not just for himself, but for those who might look up to him. An hour into the flight, the plane hit a patch of turbulence. Claire, ever attentive, made her rounds to ensure that all passengers were comfortable. When she reached Jordan's row, she noticed his tablet screen displaying complex data and graphs. "Excuse me, sir," she said with genuine curiosity. "Are you in finance or tech?" Jordan offered a polite smile. "Tech. Cybersecurity, to be specific." Claire's eyes lit up with interest. "That's fascinating. My brother works in IT. He's always talking about how cybersecurity is the future." Jordan nodded. "It's definitely a growing field. We're working on some exciting projects right now, actually." Their conversation, though brief, caught the attention of the wealthy father, who couldn't help but eavesdrop. He exchanged a glance with his wife, who raised an eyebrow, clearly curious about what they were hearing. Unable to contain his curiosity any longer, the man leaned slightly forward. "Did I hear correctly? You're in cybersecurity?" Jordan turned to face him, maintaining his polite demeanor. "Yes, I run a company called Ellis Solutions. We specialize in developing advanced cybersecurity systems for corporations and government agencies." The man's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "Ellis Solutions. I've heard of that. You were featured in Forbes last month, weren't you?" Jordan nodded. "That's correct. We've been fortunate to gain some attention recently." Suddenly, the man's entire demeanor changed. Gone was the haughty arrogance, replaced by something resembling respect, or perhaps embarrassment. He realized that the man he had judged so harshly was, in fact, a highly successful CEO. The man, still grappling with embarrassment, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His initial prejudice had been entirely misplaced, and now he felt compelled to salvage the situation, or at least attempt to save face. Clearing his throat, he forced a smile and leaned forward slightly. "Well, Mr. Ellis, I must say, that's quite impressive. Cybersecurity is such a critical field these days. You must be doing quite well for yourself." Jordan's polite demeanor didn't falter, but his response was measured. "We're fortunate. Hard work and persistence have paid off." His tone was neutral, neither boastful nor dismissive. The wife, sensing her husband's discomfort, tried to join in, her voice suddenly friendlier. We've been considering upgrading our company's cybersecurity infrastructure. Maybe we could discuss potential solutions with your firm." Jordan smiled politely, but offered no further comment. He had no intention of engaging in a business conversation with people who had judged him so harshly moments earlier. Claire, the flight attendant, returned with refreshments, and the conversation took a pause. After serving the drinks, she lingered near Jordan's seat for a moment. "If you don't mind me saying, Mr. Ellis, I think it's incredible what you're doing. It's inspiring to see someone who's worked so hard achieve such success." Jordan appreciated her sincerity. He gave her a warm smile. "Thank you, Claire. I appreciate that." The wealthy couple observed the interaction in silence, their earlier arrogance replaced by a quiet sense of regret. It was clear they had made a significant misjudgment about the man sitting across from them. Jordan noticed their discomfort, but chose not to address it directly. Instead, he turned back to his tablet, resuming his review of the presentation he had prepared for his meeting in Los Angeles. As the flight continued, the atmosphere in the first-class cabin became less tense. The couple remained quiet, occasionally exchanging glances, but refraining from any further attempts at conversation. Meanwhile, Jordan focused on his work, determined not to let the earlier incident distract him. About an hour before landing, Claire returned to check on the passengers. This time, she addressed the wealthy family directly. "Is there anything else I can get you?" The man hesitated before speaking. "No, thank you. But, He trailed off, clearly struggling to find the right words. Finally, he turned to Jordan. "Mr. Ellis, I just wanted to say, I apologize if we made you uncomfortable earlier. It was uncalled for." Jordan looked up, meeting the man's eyes. There was a moment of silence before he replied, "Apology accepted." His tone was calm, but there was a weight to his words, a quiet strength that left no room for further discussion. As the plane began its descent into Los Angeles, Jordan closed his tablet and prepared for landing. The wealthy couple remained quiet, clearly reflecting on the events of the flight. When the plane finally touched down and passengers began to disembark, Jordan gathered his belongings and stood up. Claire, who had been standing near the exit, offered him a genuine smile. "Safe travels, Mr. Ellis, and good luck with your meeting." "Thank you, Claire," Jordan replied warmly. As he made his way down the aisle, the wealthy family watched him go, a mix of regret and admiration in their expressions. They had learned a valuable lesson that day, one they wouldn't soon forget. Jordan didn't look back. He had no need to. He knew who he was, and he knew that no amount of prejudice or judgment could change that. This story reminds us that appearances can be deceiving, and it's never wise to judge someone based on how they look. Jordan Ellis's calm dignity in the face of prejudice serves as a powerful reminder that respect and kindness should always come first. If this story inspired you, please like and share it to spread a message of respect and equality. Don't forget to subscribe to Stories Unfolded for more incredible tales of resilience, courage, and unexpected lessons. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.